Hello, and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast, which for this podcast means 6 thoughts about reading, writing, or storytelling. And I've been away from the podcast for a couple of weeks, but I finally got up this morning early, got 6 things together to share with all of you, and I am ready to get started. So I apologize about the absence. Basically, a couple weeks ago, I had decided to take the week off because Thursday was the day before my birthday. And then the next week rolled around and I was just really tired and honestly did not feel like getting up and recording. And I was also feeling a little discouraged about the podcast, and then ended up having a conversation with one of my listeners, who's also a longtime friend, who told me that she read one of the books that I recommended on the podcast and really liked it. And that was super encouraging to me because I felt like, okay, like it made some small impact. So that helped me get back on it. And so, yeah, let's get started officially with 6 things for this week. So number 1 on Progenitor, still haven't made a lot of progress on it, although I've gotten feedback. My brother finished reading it and we've gone back and forth with some great feedback that he had and some questions that I had, and I think it'll be super helpful. Both he and my other readers had some really practical things that I could implement to hopefully make it a little bit stronger, but nobody's had any really huge things that they thought needed to be changed, which is encouraging. And then I still have a couple more chapters to read to my husband. He hasn't had any big complaints so far, though he usually will kind of wait until, the end so he can see like, okay, well, that didn't make sense, or that wasn't, didn't fit with the ending or whatever. So I have a couple more chapters to read him. He's just been super busy at work, but I'm in no rush at this point. So hopefully, at least by the end of this week, I'll have all my feedback, and I'd love next week to finally start marking up my manuscript with changes that need to happen. But again, like I said, I don't think it's anything major. I think it's just some tweaks here and there. So hopefully the editing process won't take very long. Number 2, I'm back to getting Kindle Vella episodes out this month after taking all of March off. Other than reading Progenitor to my husband, I did not do any writing in March at all. And it's hard because I was definitely burning out. And like I said, my husband's very busy at work, so that just, creates a little bit of extra stress, for him, and it makes me just, want to just do what I can to really support him even more than usual. And it just, it's just some extra stress, like, as life does. And so I just had wanted to take a bit of a break, but I do think it was a little bit too much. Like, that was a long time to go without writing. And so again, I'm trying to not have too much of a pendulum swing, but when I looked at this month to see, I decided to just try to get out 3 Vella episodes each week, and then have 3 more days where I'm just promoting them instead of writing one 6 days a week and promoting them 6 days a week. So far I'm really liking that. It definitely does not feel remotely overwhelming. It's really enjoyable. I feel like I've been able to get out some good episodes, so that's good. Hopefully I can continue to figure out what the right balance is to go along with my life, but it does help to just reevaluate month to month. So number 3, last time I talked about finally getting myself a new microphone to help with audiobook recording. So I tried it for the first time working on the 2nd edition of the Radialloy audiobook, and I was able to record 1 chapter of that and then spend this past week editing it. And it sounds great, honestly. I think it's going to work out really well. The only big test will be to see when I upload it to Audible and wherever else and see if they approve. But to my ears, it sounds really good. It sounds better, and I'm not having all the issues I used to have with my other recorder with just like, I don't know, little pops and like weird buzzes, and I don't know, just I'm having none of that kind of stuff, which made it so much easier to edit it. And so I'm really excited about that. I haven't had as much time to record lately for a bunch of just different reasons, kind of have coalesced to not allow as much recording time. And the Ray Alloway audiobook is about 5 hours long, so it'll take me a little while to get through it. But I'm really excited to finally get going on this project of redoing that, and then hopefully finally getting the other books out, which again will take a while, but I think this new microphone, it's really going to help quite a bit, make the process smoother and less frustrating, and with a better quality product at the end. Number 4, a couple nights ago, again, my husband was working late, and the girls were just kind of bouncing off the walls, and there was still about half an hour until bedtime. So I sat down to feed the baby, and I said, "Hey girls, come in here and sit down, and I'll tell you all a story, but like, you have to help me." So I will start telling a story, and when I point at you, you tell me something that you think should be in the story. Because I'm not really much of like an off-the-cuff storyteller. Like, I don't like to just sit down and like make up a story. But it always is easier if you have something to go on. So I thought this will be fun because they'll enjoy getting to be part of it, and it'll help me like have something to base my story on. So we did that. We told a couple of stories that were very silly, of course, but they didn't really understand what I was asking them to do. So at first they just would say their names, which is how we ended up with a story about a girl named Little April who loved to smell flowers, and she found a 10-foot tall violet and sent her little friend Lolly the koala to climb up to the top of it and smell it for her. And finally I told them, I'm like, don't just say your names, tell me something else. And then we ended up with a firefighter who came down the path and agreed to help Little April get Lolly Koala down from the magical violet, which had caused her to fall into an enchanted sleep in the top of it. And then a giraffe also came and climbed a ladder to help look up, just, silly things. But I think they kind of finally figured out what I was wanting, and then they were begging for more stories, but it was bedtime, so I told them in the morning, just tell each other stories when you wake up. So they did that yesterday morning, and they came out telling me all the stories they told each other. So that was really fun. I definitely could see us doing it again because it helped. Just even having that little tiny bit of help from them helped lift a little bit of the burden from my tired imagination. So that was a lot of fun, and it was sweet how much they enjoyed it. So number 5, am I currently reading? Right now I am reading a book called Doomsday Book by Connie Willis. And the story behind that is that our book club book for this month is a book by Connie Willis, and that book is called To Say Nothing of the Dog. And I was really looking forward to this book, and then I found out that it was number 2 in the series by Connie Willis, and I just could not bring myself to do that. So I tracked down book number 1 and have been reading that. And I really am enjoying it. It's time travel, but it's sort of an unusual type time travel story. And it's also was written in the 90s, which is interesting. And I like the version of time travel, like it's very sort of technical, and it almost does feel like if time travel really was possible, this kind of does seem like how it would actually happen, what kinds of rules there would be and things like that. And so I like that aspect of it a lot. I really like the characters. There's definitely sort of this dry wit, but it's very long. It's very repetitive in certain ways, and it's definitely slow, and that actually has not bothered me. As I'm reading it, I'm thinking I'm kind of glad our book club isn't reading this one particular book, because I feel like people would find it boring. Of course, not everyone, obviously, but some people would not like that about it. And it also, I'm exactly 75% of the way through because I'm reading it on Kindle, and it is very sad, and it's getting very, very sad. What's interesting is some of my friends that are in the book club have already gone ahead and read To Say Nothing of the Dog, and they also have loved it, and they've said it's like very funny, and it just sounds, based on their sort of reactions, that it's very different from this book. So I'm super curious to get to that one. My plan is to finish Doomsday Book up today so that I can start To Say Nothing of the Dog tomorrow and hopefully have it finished in time for book club. But it's definitely, I really am enjoying it. I like, again, the characters are just people that feel real, feel like I would really want to be around. And even though some of the writing can get a little repetitive, I still feel like it's very well written. Like the descriptions, to me, it's just the right amount where I can get the essence of what's happening without being too much. And it's just, I don't know, there's a lot of depth to it in certain ways. And I still don't know exactly what's going on since I haven't reached the end, but it feels like a very unique premise. And I don't know, I'm enjoying it a lot. And I'm super curious to see how different it is from book 2. So I'll have to update y'all on that. So number 6, I know I talked a while ago about the book, How to Read a Book, that I read last year, I believe. And one thing that it actually kind of helped me with, I've been a little concerned the past couple years with how fast I read, because I read very fast. And I don't tend to remember books that well after I've read them. Like I'll remember like the gist, but I just forget. I forget a lot about what I've read. And so I thought, I shouldn't be reading this fast. Like I should slow down. But actually one thing they talked about in that book is how reading fast can actually be a great tool to help you weed out the books that are worth it from the books that kind of aren't. And I definitely have this feeling, I've started being more in tune to it as I'm reading a book, where I can sense that I am definitely going to want to read this book again, or I can tell myself, yeah, this is after, I'm not going to keep this one. This one I'm just going to get rid of. No plans to revisit it ever. And so I've started kind of thinking that, like, as I'm reading fast through the book, because they kind of recommend, actually they recommend like the very first step to like skim through the book and also like look at the end and that. And I'm never going to do that because I still want to interact with the book as the author intended. So I'll read from start to finish, but I'm starting to kind of see reading fast as a way to tell me, like, yes, this book is worth coming back to again and soaking it in better. And then they have some recommendations for slowing down and getting more out of your future reads. But just having that thought that this book is worth coming back to has helped me feel good about reading through things so fast, because I feel like not every book is going to be worth like really sinking your teeth into and digesting and like spending that much time on. That's just obviously true. There's lots of books that are either bad or just not great. And so I've really enjoyed reading through books with that sense of I'm going to come back to this book someday. Now, it might take me several years with the amount of books I'm still trying to read, but I could put it back on my shelf knowing I'm going to come back to this. And when I do, I will maybe I'll go back to the How to Read a Book and look at some of their suggestions for slowing down and really focusing and getting more out of the book, and just like revisit it, not only again, but in a different way and in a way that will allow me to really soak it in a lot more. So that's been really cool and has really helped me not feel bad about forgetting a lot of things I read, because I do at least remember that was a really good book and it has a place in my mind and on my shelf for coming back to one day. So thank you all so much for listening. I appreciate so much everyone that takes the time to listen to this podcast, and anyone that takes the time to let me know any thoughts that they have about it and engage with story-related discussions. It just means so much to me and just really keeps me doing it, because obviously if nobody listened, there would be no reason. So thank you again, and I really appreciate that. Please let me know if you've read anything by Connie Willis, and if you enjoy time travel stories, tell me some of your favorites, because I really do enjoy a good time travel. And also, tell me how you read. Do you read fast? Do you read slow? Do you like the way you read? Do you tend to reread books or not? Just like, I've been very interested lately to think about the different ways people read and how it impacts what they choose to read and just all that kind of stuff. So again, thank you so much. I hope that everyone has a great day and a great weekend ahead, and stay improbable. Bye.